It's almost that time of the year once again where traveling starts to pick up and people are going to start making bad decisions when it comes to their traveling destinations and finance.
We made another loan to cover a credit card so we could go on our trip.
When I'm on vacation, one thing about me, I'm swiping that card.
I've been scared to check my bank account because I was on vacation.
Why are you in a bunch of debt, 27 years old?
I spent like 10K going to Europe.
But I don't see a problem with people using pay later options for traveling.
You come back home, you begging for $20.
It was just swipe the card over and over and over. And
didn't make a decision. There's a $15,000 charge for Disney.
My mental health requires me to go on one beach vacation a year.
You need to live life now. I'm never gonna get this time back.
45% of parents go into debt for Disney vacations.
Now, I like to travel just as much as the next guy, but in certain situations, you need to either sit at home or find you another trip to go on because you are spending way too much money on these vacations. As somebody who grew up on the lesser scale of the financial ladder, I know for a fact that making these core memories are important, but at the same time, there are different things that you can do in order to make those same memories right at the comfort of your own home. Some of the things that my family and I went through because we didn't have the money to go on trips, I think actually built a lot of character and made me want to grind and get in a position where I can provide that for my kids once I do have those. However, putting yourself behind the 8 ball because you want to go on these trips doesn't make much sense to me. And in today's video, we're going to look at some situations that show when traveling may be appropriate, when it's not appropriate, how you can save a little money along the way, and show that every situation is not as black and white as you might think. But before we do that, let's look at how far people are actually willing to go in order to go on these vacations.
The average vacation cost for one person in the United States is a little under $2,000 per week.
More than a third of summer vacationers, 36%, are willing to take on debt this summer for their travels. The reason that's worrisome is because the average credit card charges over 20%, which is close to a record high. I don't want to tell people they can't have any fun, but this represents a lot of people taking on expensive debt. And this is the kind of thing that can linger.
Globally, 72% of millennials and 65% of Gen Zs said they plan on spending more on leisure travel in 2024 compared to 2023. In the US, 47% of millennials and 42% of Gen Zs said they plan to take on debt to go on summer vacation.
There are so many compelling reasons why people choose to take on debt to have these vacations. If your kids are dreaming of going to Disney World and there's no way the family could ever really swing it without going into debt, it could be a memory the family will have forever. Parents often can rationalize spending in these terms for their children.
Here's how Americans are paying for their summer vacations. Credit cards are the most common way people pay for their vacations. 62% of Americans surveyed said they put at least some of their trip on a credit card. Financial experts say that this can be a risky move if the borrower cannot pay the balance in time to not be charged interest.
The average credit card balance is already over $6,000, according to TransUnion. If you add $1,000 in vacation expenses to that, maybe it feels like a drop in the bucket, but it just makes it that much harder. That $6,200, if you make minimum payments at the average interest rate of 20.7%, you're going to be in debt for 18 years and you're going to pay more than $9,000 in interest. So some of this is making a bad situation worse.
The debt feels like this trade-off.
It's not worth it. Me and my family ain't never been at Disney, and I'm just as happy as I ever would have been if we would have made it there. Let's keep rocking.
For a lot of people, it's ultimately the interchange between money for these lifelong memories and seminal experiences. And that's a sacrifice many are not only willing to make, but feel so strongly in doing so. Especially when debt is a weight many people are already accustomed to carrying.
Consumers are still out there using their credit cards. Their credit card balances are over $1 trillion now. We're seeing actual delinquencies on credit now rising. People are dipping into their savings. But bottom line is that they're still spending.
Not all credit card users are paying interest. 43% of Americans said they use their credit cards to pay for their trips, but paid it off in full to avoid interest.
That is exactly how you need to get it done. Get them points. I need to go through a video on that about credit card points. But that ain't for everybody, because some people swipe and swipe and swipe, and before they know it, the balance is over what they got in their checkings account and they can't afford to pay it back. And so you have to be on your P's and Q's when you're using this strategy. But let's keep going.
This also comes with the perk of accumulating rewards points.
Use those rewards points and miles. Put those to use. But it doesn't make sense to pay 20% interest just to get 2 or 3 or 4% cash back or airline miles.
In order to avoid interest while still having more time to pay off the credit card balance, some vacationers choose to open a new credit card that provides them with 0% interest for a set period of time.
The risk here is that once the term expires, the rate goes way up.
That's shaky because a lot of times if you do it that way, you ain't have the money in the first place. Now, we're going to get into some buy now, pay later type stuff a little bit later on in this video, but
option vacationers are considering is taking out a loan for their trip. 5% of vacationers plan to take out a personal loan from a financial institution, which typically carries a lower interest rate than credit cards. The average interest rate of a personal loan in June 2024 was about 12%. 6% of those surveyed said they plan to borrow from friends or family.
I think both of those represent a slippery slope. Personal loan rates have gone up a lot.
That debt equals irresponsible is so pejorative and such a simplistic way of looking at this, that there's all different reasons and rationales why we might intentionally go into debt. People don't think taking out a mortgage for a home and making this a lifelong investment is irresponsible, but it can be a really bad investment in a lot of cases. So you have to consider, where is it important for you to invest your money? And maybe it is this trip with these lifelong memories with your family that you'll never get back.
Another option is loaning money to yourself out of a 401k account. A loan is different from a 401k withdrawal. Withdrawals have different rules and tax implications. Loans are not permitted from IRA or IRA-based plans. The reason someone may go this route is instead of paying interest to a financial institution, they would pay themselves back over time with interest. That payment will go back into their retirement account and eventually accumulate compound interest.
Borrowing from your retirement plan definitely worries me because really the biggest predictor of future returns is time in the market. So even though we don't know what stocks are going to do this week or this month or this year, over the long haul, they've been massive wealth builders. So I feel like that would be more of a last resort if there's kind of an emergency. Going on vacation is not an emergency. It is interesting how, while you could say on one hand that it's worrisome that credit card balances are near record highs and the personal saving rate is near a record low, this is powering a lot of economic growth. But what's good for the economy is not always good for your household finances.
Consumer spending makes up nearly 70% of US GDP, which means a rise in consumer spending can spur economic growth. But a rise in consumer debt can lead to a hard pullback in spending, which can cause what's called deflation.
Deflation is just generally associated with not just recessions, but deep recessions in the economy.
A recession occurs when there's, quote, a significant decline in economic activity that is spread across the economy and lasts more than a few months.
Historically speaking, deflation means that prices are actually coming down. And the reason why prices are coming down is because people aren't spending money. The reason why people aren't spending money is because they don't have jobs and they can't afford to go out and take a trip to Hawaii or go out and buy a new Lexus or do those kind of things. They're just kind of trying to tread water and they're not even doing that. So therefore prices are going to have to keep coming down.
It's important to remember that there's not just one consumer story.
You have the same consumer that might be out there spending on travel, going to events, whether it's concerts or sporting events, which we are seeing very, very clearly, and that's driving some of these travel trends. And they're doing it in a way that's really strategic. At the same time, that same strategic consumer might be walking into a store and really thinking carefully about how they're spending, looking for the best promotion, the best discount. So it's not one story for the consumer. And I think that's really important because it creates a lot of complications in the narrative, because you have consumers looking for discounts, you have consumers looking for promotions, and you have consumers that want to make their dollars work the best they can in the way that works for them.
I think that's very important because we spend a lot of time talking about the people who make horrible decisions, but there are some people out there making fantastic decisions, saving a lot of money, and shout out to them.
Financial experts say the key to affording a vacation is to plan ahead. Advisors say the first step is figuring out what you want to spend and to set a budget for the trip.
This is our allowance for food, and this is our allowance for trips or activities. So you can kind of make sure your behavior is consistent with your values. Because money on trips can feel like monopoly money. I had a client I worked with who decided they were going to stay in an Airbnb and they were going to cook all of their food. So they were going to save on food and they were going to splurge on this boat trip they were really excited about. And it felt like a compromise.
The next step after establishing a budget would be making a plan to save.
You can start small and daily. Maybe you're going to set aside a little bit of money each day or each paycheck to this dream vacation. And it can be helpful to have kind of a calculation set up.
On top of setting aside the money, you can also find small ways to save on costs to make the most of your trip.
There are plenty of ways to save. You can have fun on a budget. You can use your frequent flyer miles or credit card points. You could be open-minded about when and where you go. Kind of zig when others zag. Maybe travel in the off-season or the shoulder season, or drive instead of fly, or travel midweek instead of on the weekend. If you can let the deal dictate the destination, that can really help you out. Flexibility is key.
There's times when you just have to be realistic. If you financially can't swing a vacation, can you get creative? Can you find a way to take a break from your life or mimic a vacation without the big expense?
Maybe even do a staycation. I think that's an underrated option. This idea of playing tourist in your local area. So there's a way to have fun without busting the budget.
Nearly half of Americans said they plan to skip their summer vacation, with 65% of them saying affordability was the main issue.
I kind of worry about both of those extremes. You have the people that are paying 20 or 25 or 30% extra to go on vacation, which is not great. But then you also have a lot of people skipping the trip entirely, which may be regrettable later on.
There's a ratio between the money being spent and the amount of time of your trip, and only you can decide if that experience, the memories of the 5-day vacation, is valuable enough to commit to having to worry about paying it off for months in the future.
I think this video did a great job of breaking it down. There are people out there who are going into large amounts of debt in order to go on these expensive vacations. There are people out there who are breaking down coupons, getting points, and doing what they can in order to save $1 or $2. There are people out there who just cannot afford to go on these trips. And there are some people who just stay at home and make a vacation out of that. Sometimes you just spend time with your family at the crib. Maybe you play the game. Maybe you decide to grill out. Turn it into almost like a holiday type of vacation at home. The older I get, the more I appreciate just staying at the house. And I'm not saying that's what life is all about, but what I am saying is you have to be smart. I think we can have our cake and eat it too, in a sense, depending on how you set yourself up in life. Get yourself together so you can determine the terms of your own life. Don't have the IRS or whoever knocking at your door because you decided to spend $20,000 on a vacation you can't afford, and now you declaring for bankruptcy, or you in all this debt, and you set your family up for failure because now you can't afford day-to-day things because you took that one trip.
I just pulled from made another loan to cover a credit card so we could go on our trip.
Oh my. Okay.
And I didn't tell him.
What do you mean? Wait, why doesn't he get to know that? Why are we doing that without his knowledge?
Oh.
He thought you were pulling from an emergency fund. Not that that's even better, but actually, no, you said the trip was pre-planned.
I was going to tell him.
But you didn't, so I don't give it was. You didn't.
Well, no, I didn't tell him.
Huh?
I didn't tell him.
Why?
Because, I was going to.
But you didn't.
I just didn't want him to stress about our trip.
But now you're stressing about the trip, even though the trip is already done because you've borrowed on it and now you have to pay it off. You borrowed, you opened it, you took out a loan. What kind of loan?
Uplift?
Okay.
No, Upstart was the loan I took for the card. Upstart, yeah. I took that out to pay off a credit card that was maxed out so that we could have spending on the card.
Oh my.
That has nothing to do with the vacation.
Well, then what are you talking about? Because that just contradicted your whole thing. I'm confused too. What are you saying?
So, yeah, we did finance the vacation that we just took.
From what? On what?
It's like the pre-planned, like a firm, like one of those. It's called Uplift.
So Uplift
you took
and
a loan
Upstart.
to pay off a credit card.
Yeah, they're both two. I have both loans, an Upstart and Uplift.
And which one did you know about? And which one did you not? Or neither? Why? When? When did you do this?
The last week of the month before our trip.
What month?
September.
Okay. The last week of September.
Yes.
You did this.
Yes. I got a loan out and paid off a credit card that was maxed out.
Yeah, why? But like, why? Because that just it's got my name too on it, or is it
No, it's
just
just
yours?
mine. It's
Because
just mine.
it affects us both, and that is not really a good
You
feeling to
never,
have
like-
that go behind my back, you know.
Yeah.
But
I think you would understand why I did it, so I didn't figure you were going to be mad.
Well, understand why you did it. You did it for the vacation.
Correct.
And are you mad?
yeah, I'll say, Matt, I'm pretty disappointed. That's kind of a big thing. I thought we were low on funds, during the month because we were taking out to pay for a trip.
That's where the clip stops. But look, situations like this is why marriages nowadays don't last as long. Either somebody that went broke, somebody spending money they shouldn't be spending. I hate to say it like that. They need some counseling because clearly she cannot be trusted. And when you cannot trust the person you're sleeping next to on a nightly basis, you got a problem. And I love to see marriages thrive. I'm married. I love it. But at the same time, if you ain't on the same page, at some point in time, you're going to be signing them pages. They in that relationship or in that marriage. And I hate to say that, but that is exactly what goes down. She's setting them up for failure because she wanted to be selfish and go on this trip. Now, she said she did it for us. She said she did it for them, I should say. But did you really, though? Did you actually consider how he felt about it? He didn't even know. He didn't even know. I would be pissed off. Shame on you.
Been scared to check my bank account because I was on vacation. I was on vacation for 2 weeks, and for the first week I was with my family, and well, I'm not American, so my mom loved me past the age of 18 and she paid for some stuff. But the second week I was in Anguilla and that was gone. Now, for those who don't know Anguilla, it is a small island in the Caribbean. It is super beautiful. They cater to a lot of luxury tourism. So I want you to think sun, sea, and then suddenly you're broke because specifically in those tourist areas, oh my gosh, you breathe, $20 gone. I sneezed once, it was $30 because I was polluting the air. But no matter, I told myself, Shannon, you work hard, you deserve it, treat yourself, lobster, steak by the beach, spa day, you name it, you have it. Who tell me do that? Who tell me do that? Because today now it's time to bite the bullet. I said, Shannon, let's do a little financial audit, make sure things are in order. I'm sweating, putting in my bank pin, but telling myself, it can't be that bad. Wrong. I'm going through these transactions and I'm like, no way I spent all this money. That's crazy. So I call my bank. I said, hi, good day. I think there's some sort of mistake because I did not spend all this money. The girl on the other line, so friendly. She says, no problem. Let's go through the transactions and see which ones are fraudulent. But they have a bit more information on their end. So she just giving me the information. And she's like, you sure this wasn't you? Every single time I had to be like, yes, that actually was me. So then eventually Sarah goes, honey, I think the only mistake was your spending.
Now, I haven't been in a situation like this, but I do understand that mindset. When you're on vacation, you're not really thinking about nothing. You see it, you want it, you buy it, you get it. You know what I'm talking about? You have to also remember you got a life to go back to. A lot of people like to just flush and erase all sense of reality. That's why they swipe them cards without even thinking about the repercussions. Now, I'm not saying you should go on a vacation stressed, because if you're that stressed about money when you're gone, you should have stayed at the house. That's how I feel about it. You may disagree, but if you're going to be stressing while you're out like that, don't even think about it. Don't even go. Just sit at home and go the next time. Now, if you plan that trip with budgeting on your mind and that particular location that you're going to, you're able to do that. That's one thing. I'm not talking to you guys. But what I am saying is, if you're going somewhere and you know that place is expensive, don't even think of just go somewhere else. Do something different.
When I'm on vacation, one thing about me, I'm swiping that card because I don't believe in budgeting when on vacation. The key is you budget before you get on vacation. Then you swipe while you're on vacation, and then you worry when you get back. That's the timeline. I'm not gonna mince my dollars while I'm on vacation. That sounds like a problem for future me. I don't even know that man yet, to be honest. So I'm going to just do me. I'm going to live my life, and I'm going to buy what I want to buy, experience what I want to experience. Feel me? And then worry when I get back home. That's just my vibe. Now, one thing for sure, this is fiscally irresponsible. However, it would also be irresponsible of me to not enjoy my time. I work hard all year so that I can go on this trip. Now that I'm here, I'm spending. And I'm gonna live the lifestyle that I believe that I should be living. And then future me is gonna have to work harder to make sure that the past me was you get the situation. But that's just me.
Now, I do agree with the fact that you should budget before you leave and go on that vacation. So much so that when you are on vacation, you are not stressed about how much you are spending on that vacation. Now, do I periodically check my account and make sure I'm still on point? Yes, I do. But at the same time, I usually have enough that when I go back and look at it, it's like, well, I still had a little bit left in the tank. I'm not nickel and diming while I'm on vacation. I do agree with that because I want to enjoy. But at the same time, make sure you're not putting yourself in a bad spot.
And now pay later services are going to have y'all in so much trouble, you're not going to know how to get out.
This might be controversial, but I don't see a problem with people using pay later options for traveling, and here's why. Travel has been deemed as a luxury for many for so long now. And I think that especially given today's economy, how are you going to judge somebody and how are you going to tell somebody that they simply cannot afford a vacation simply because they are using the option to pay for it later? This is important because I think that people that get the luxury of traveling, I am one of them. I travel for work. I've traveled internationally on press trips, all expense paid trips. And I am so grateful for that. But I do understand for so many people that just simply is not an option, whether or not it's PTO, whether or not it's financial, but the ability to travel is a luxury, but the fact that this is now an option now opens up the floodgates for other people to experience this. And lastly, I just want to say that this should 1000% be done in moderation, meaning if you have Afterpay, Klarna, etc. for a ton of other items, I probably would say you shouldn't do it. But if you are someone who maybe doesn't have any options that are on hold and this is simply just a monthly added bill, and also maybe let's say if you pay it off in advance before you actually go on the trip, whatever is the case, yes, it can be bad for some, but the reality is, and where we are in this economy, if people need this to travel, I think more so this actually shows where we are as a society. And if people need to be paying later for the relaxation and the peace of mind that they need, particularly whenever so many people are dealing with mental health issues, then so be it.
I'm going to talk about this from two different angles. Do I see an issue where people are using Klarna, buy now, pay later, different things like that? Yes, I do. But the reason why is because a lot of people use those and don't pay them back on time, and then they have interest, or they have interest already. If you have to finance a trip where it's going to add interest to whatever it is you're trying to buy, I don't think it's worth it. But at the same time, if you can get that same thing with a 0% interest and pay it along the way, then I'm not as opposed to that situation if you're going to 100% commit to it and actually do it the right way. However, a lot of people don't really think about it. And the more I watch these videos and I've seen people talk about it, Klarna, Uplift, whatever it may be, it's just a modern day version of credit cards. People have been doing this for a long time. They've been financing their trips with credit cards for years now. They try to hook you with some special promotion or something like that. And if you're not on top of it, which they hope you are not, you end up paying a lot of interest back for something when it actually is a lot cheaper than that.
I really have to stop going on vacation, coming back home broke. The girls be going to Jamaica and Mexico, taking all of the child support, all of the rent money, all of the car note money, all of the mortgage money, splurging and having a good time. You come back home, you begging for $20. You can't even afford to get to work because you need gas in your tank. Wasn't you just in Belize? Wasn't you just in Jamaica? Wasn't you just in Mexico? Ma'am, that's not how you properly vacation. That's not responsible. That's not adultish. Not mindful at all. When I vacation, I make sure that I have money in my savings account. Money to the side, money for my gas tank to get me to point A and point B where I need to go. How you coming back home asking Ma and Steven for $20 to pay in the tank? $20 to get your kids to McDonald's. That's insane, Mama. What you do with the money? Where's the mortgage money?
And she make an excellent point. Now, I'm not going to judge you if you want to go on trips, but I am going to look at you kind of sideways if you're asking people for money after you just got back from a lavish vacation.
Why are you in a bunch of debt, 27 years old?
I spent like $10K going to Europe.
Ooh.
Yeah, for 5 weeks. And I know that it's not going to make me look good and people are going to have opinions about this, but I honestly do not regret that for a second.
Well,
It gave me like a reason to want to live again. Honestly, when I quit my job, I had 10 to 15K saved up. like
wow.
as emergency
Why'd you quit your
savings.
job?
It was a tough work environment. It was basically one of those things where the boss felt like a Bravo reality TV show. Like he was the villain, but also
geez.
like super hectic and a lot going on. So I'm grateful for the experience and I'm really glad I left there. But I do try to take on freelance clients if it's worth it. But right now I'm just trying to focus on my new job, and it is a pretty new job. And so, yeah, I really like where I am.
Okay, so are you okay?
Yes, sorry.
Okay, no, it's okay. Your voice is shaking, so I just want to make sure.
In general, I do get shaky when I talk too. So,
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, just as someone who is an anxious person and has my own issues with that, I want to make sure.
Thank you.
Now, there are certain situations in life, just like hers in particular, where you may feel like there is no return. And so what she did was she took a trip in order to, let's say, rejuvenate herself. And so with that being said, it's very important that you make sure you handle whatever this may be, whatever you have going on in your life, before it get to a point where you feel like you have to make a rational decision like that. Now, she made it, she has to live with it, and she's okay with it. However, being in debt is also stressful. And a lot of people have done things to themselves because they feel like they get into certain situations that they cannot get out of. And so it's a slippery slope that you have to be able to navigate. And that's why I always say it's so important to have a village. Everybody does not have that. And when I say have a village, you need people around you who have been in certain situations throughout their life who can help you navigate it. We were not made to be here and figure it out solo, but there are so many people, unfortunately, who have to do that. If you have somebody in your life that have taught you the game, have taught you certain things, be thankful, because she probably does not have somebody in her life who, for one, could have been there for her in this time when she was struggling with her job and different things like that. And for two, somebody who could have helped her out with a, cheaper measure than spending $10,000 in Europe. Now, that's what she had to do because she didn't have that person or that group or that village. And so it is what it is. She now has to climb up out of that hole.
I don't know. Maybe I have the wrong idea about it. Y'all keep saying debt this, debt that, save this, save that. The whole thing is like, I don't know. Maybe it's me. Maybe it's my personal experience. I just known too many people that didn't even make it to 30, literally. So, like, I'm not saying I shouldn't save for the future. I shouldn't have a retirement plan. I shouldn't put up 401, all this other shit. That's nice. Great. Nice. But the thing is, like, you need to live life now, I feel like, personally. I'm never going to get this time back. I'm never going to get these years back. I'm never going to get this year back. So y'all could save up for a vacation that might take me 5 years to save up for. And then what happens when I get to that 5-year mark and I can no longer do it? Things are way more expensive. So that's just out of the question. We got some type of crazy ass ban where we can't leave the country, or I just not in a physical shape or mental shape to even be able to travel. I don't know. Maybe it's me. Maybe I'm irresponsible as fuck. I have no clue. I just know that if I can make a way to make shit happen, I'm gonna make it happen. And to me, experiences are more important than any of this material shit and saving up, retirement funds, all this extra shit. I just don't care about that right now. I'm sorry, I don't. Like, savings, yeah, cool, fine, dandy. But, like, for me personally, I feel like this country's already just going to shit as is. And it's, like, crazy expensive to live here. So, like, for me, I know y'all saying, like, oh, you need to save up, expenses, bills, emergency funds, all this stuff, 401k, you want to retire, you want to pay down your debts. I don't give a shit. I'll change my name and move out the country. And y'all will never see me again. I don't know. Maybe I'm irresponsible. Maybe I don't think clearly. I don't know, y'all. I can't even think straight. I need a trip so damn bad I can't even think straight.
Now, I'm going to preface my words by saying this. Now, I'm going to preface my words by saying this. Do I believe that you should enjoy life while you are still young? Yes. 65, once you get that 401k or whatever it is, Roth IRA, is crazy to me to think that I could not enjoy life before 65. However, I am of the mindset that I'm going to do it all. I'm saving in my Roth IRA. I'm saving in my retirement accounts. I'm saving for my vacations. I'm going on vacations one a year. The thing about it is, if you play your cards right, you can have it all. You play your cards right, man. It is more than possible to be able to travel, at the same time save, at the same time have an emergency fund, at the same time pop bottles in the Bahamas if you want to pop bottles in the Bahamas. If you want to have it all, what you got to do, you got to go get it. She got me hyped up low key, man. Look, the thing about it is, man, you see generations of money in certain places. And at some point in time, somebody got to be the one to start that generations of money. You know what I'm saying? I'm hoping it's me. And if it ain't me, I'm hoping I set my offspring up to then set their offspring up. You know what I'm talking about? That's just the way that I think. Everybody does not think that way. And it is what it is. But hopefully, she figures it out.
I recently shared that I have $31,000 of student loan debt and that I'm not super worried about it. And a lot of you lost it over this fact. You didn't like that I'm saving for an emergency fund and that I'm saving for travel. You don't like that I'm investing. You think all my money needs to go towards my debt. And I'm here to tell you, you're wrong. My personal finances are just that. My personal finances. They are my decisions to make. It's my money to do with how I please. My average student loan interest rate is 3.9%. My high yield savings account is returning 4.5%. So you do the math. Additionally, I am going to save for travel because I live in Minnesota and my mental health requires me to go on one beach vacation a year to keep my sanity. So mind your business. I also didn't need to go in and explain any of that because first and foremost, those of you who don't have debt need to stop looking at people who do have debt as less than. You are in a place of privilege that you were able to go through your college education and not require additional funds. My family and I personally did not have $125,000 to fund my college education, hence my $31,000 of student loan debt. So get off your high horse, get immersed in reality a little bit here, and quit being mean. Thank you.
Now, a lot of people are going to have an issue with the fact that she's traveling, but she has that $31K in student debt. She doesn't have any consumer debt that I know of, so I'm going to assume that she doesn't. All she has is those student loans at a 3.9% interest rate. Pretty good. She's able to beat that interest rate and use the money that she normally would be using probably to pay down that 3.9 interest rate and put in her savings account and put it inside of maybe some type of brokerage account, different things like that, which I think can potentially be smart if you do it correctly. So I have no problem with the way she's doing it. Her situation reminds me of mine. Like I said before, the thing about it is though, you need to have a plan, because a lot of people don't have a plan. When it comes to traveling, they don't plan anything. When it comes to paying off debts, they don't plan anything. They are just living life willy-nilly and then complaining when they don't have it all. We trying to get to the money. We trying to get to the bag. If that's you, I'm proud of you. If that's not you, get yourself together. Nothing wrong with going on a trip every now and then. You shouldn't be going places every weekend. But at the same time, plan accordingly for whatever your finances will allow you to do, and then find another way to get even more money. Now, money isn't everything, but at the same time, that's what we're discussing today. So it is what it is.
Jane?
Yeah?
Can you come here, please?
Yeah, what's up?
What is this $15,000 charge in our bank statement right now? Because I'm very confused. Because I see the name on it and it says Disney, but we talked about this.
Yeah,
Yeah, what?
we talked.
We talked. We didn't make a decision. There's a $15,000 charge for Disney. What is this for?
That's for the Disney cruise. That's for the
The
cruise
what?
ship. The cruise that we're going on.
$15,000 for Disney cruise?
Yeah, everything's included. Once you get, I know.
That's every cruise ship. What do you mean? So it's $15,000 for us to go on the cruise?
Yeah.
Me, you, and the kids? All four of them?
Yes, honey. Yeah, see? See,
No,
all
not
of
see.
us.
What do you mean, all of us? That's 15,000.
You're not thinking about the memories. You're not thinking about all the fun they're gonna have. They're gonna remember this forever. You're just thinking about the number, but think about the experience.
Yes, the number itself is very important.
And that's just that's a good price because the flights were. Ooh, you don't even want to know how much the flights were.
Wait, this is just for the cruise. This has nothing to do. What about the flights and the hotel before we go there?
Yeah, that's just the cruise. So don't even be worried about that because that's not the total.
Jane,
Yeah.
how much is the total, honey?
Don't worry.
I have to worry.
You can't take it with you.
But apparently I can't have it here either. What do you mean?
That probably was one of the best comebacks I've heard after somebody said something like that. Now, this is one of those willy-nilly situations. People just spending money. Now, I saw this video and it went viral a while back. The thing about it, though, that channel, I will say, I be skeptical sometimes of these couple channels when things like this arise, because they'll do things in order to, you know, go viral or whatever. I'm going to show you another clip of what I mean by that. But let's just say, for the sake of argument, that they really did spend $15K on a Disney trip on a cruise. Ain't worth it at all. I'm somebody who loved the cruise. Only been twice, but I am going back at some point in time. However, when you get into the territory talking about $15,000, you getting real close to somebody's annual salary. That is absolutely ridiculous for a cruise. And I'm pretty sure there's some Disney travel agent out there who is frowning at this, because they could have saved a lot of money. The thing about it is, I don't care how much you got. I don't believe you should spend when you could have potentially gotten a deal. I don't care if I had all the money in the world. I'm still trying not to get gypped. Ain't nobody stealing from me. I feel like you just got robbed. You just got robbed. All right. Let me show you what I mean, though, when I say, when I saw this video, I kind of was like, did they really do that, though? It's still something to discuss here, but shaky. But let me know what y'all.
Honey, I have such good news. Guess what I got today?
I have no idea.
I got a raise.
What's that?
I got a raise.
A raise of what? Your eyebrows?
Honey.
You talking about like a monetary raise? Like the
Yes.
kind you get at work?
Yeah.
You got a raise?
Yeah.
Jane, you're self-employed.
Yeah.
Self-employed?
I know, but I got the credit card statement today, and they raised my limit.
That's not, no.
For his sake, I do hope that this is scripted.
I couldn't believe when I read that 45% of parents go into debt for Disney vacations.
A Florida father is going viral after showing just how costly a day trip to Disney World has become.
Before we even got into the park, it cost me $30 just for parking. And even being a Florida resident, tickets for a family of 5 with one child under 10 was still $974. The rest of the family decided they want to go to dinner at downtown Disney Springs. This place was my literal hell, totaling $245.27. The grand total for our day was $1,391.91.
That father, Craig Stoll, and his daughter Kendall join us this morning. Good morning to both of you.
Hey, good morning. Thanks for having us.
Good morning. Well, thanks for coming on. I like the Mickey, the mini ears, Dad. All right, so you
Thanks. I
posted
couldn't
this...
get Kendall to wear them, so I chose to go for it.
They're very cute. All right, you posted this video. You have more than 8 million people who have watched it. Are you surprised, and why did you decide to do this?
I kind of had a feeling it would go viral. It's very relatable. It's family friendly.
Mm-hmm.
Disney's always a hot topic, and we're all trying to pinch pennies. So that video was probably my therapy as I was going through the day. The kids were smiling, sometimes fighting in between the lines. My wife was having a grand old time. Meanwhile, mine was just swipe the card over and over and over. And it started with the ticket purchase, and then it ran right into the parking, and then it just was like a cash cow for the rest of the day. So I kind of had an idea that people would be able to relate to it, just maybe not so much.
Yeah, Kendall, your daddy had to work so hard. I know he's a small business owner to send your whole family to Disney. Was it worth it?
Yeah, I would say it was worth it, but it was so packed just to be there for one day for all that money we spent.
Yeah, and Dad, you tried to get the lightning passes so that you could get maybe to the front of the line for, what'd you say, 3 rides? But those were too expensive, so y'all opted out of doing that. So you had to wait in the long lines, too.
Trying to put a price tag versus value. What's it worth? The lines were so long, so we're already 1,000 deep into the park. Now we're going to drop another 400 to get lightning passes. So if you, I don't want to say it this way, but if you do the average of cost per ride, it probably isn't really worth it. So we almost wanted to do the lightning passes, but multiply it times 5, that day would have been double the price.
Yeah, I know. And when we do all these stories on people who can't afford their groceries and or gasoline, or at least that was under the last administration, it's gotten a little bit better. But when you hear those kinds of stories, it's sad that most families can't afford to do Disney.
Right. And that was a last minute decision. We're Florida residents.
Right.
We decided with some family in town that they wanted to go on vacation to Disney. So we went with them. So it wasn't even a planned trip. And unfortunately, I don't think those day trippers are what Disney wants. They want you to never leave the park. They want you there for 5 days and they want you to drop 10 grand. So I think that one day trip, I'm actually being punished for it.
Yeah, that lightsaber we just saw your son holding was $44.99, and you said he couldn't have it. You had to tell your son, and you want to be able to say, look, this is a special trip. We're in Disney World. I want to get my children each a toy. But unfortunately, it's just we're not able to do that when we travel and you're spending $1,400 in one day. Kendall, did you have fun?
I did have a lot of fun, though.
What was the best part?
I liked waiting in the lines with all my family because you just got to talk with them the whole time.
That wasn't the answer I expected.
That's
Wow.
so sweet. You just loved being with your family. Well, Dad, you did a good job. They'll never forget it.
Now, I'm going to touch on two things that happened in that video. First, the fact that he said he felt like he was being punished for doing a day trip to Disney, which was way too expensive, because he's right. Disney wants you to never leave the park. They incentivize it and make it cheaper, kinda, for people who stay multiple days. Because as you continue to add days to your trip or whatever theme park you decide to go to, the price continues to decrease per day. It's a way to get people to stay and spend more time in the park, which in actuality, you may end up spending even more money because you still have to stay in a hotel, or you have to eat, or you'll be more apt to spend money on an item your kid may want or a show that your kid may want to attend. And it just goes to show you that you need to be careful when you're planning these trips. And I'm not one to tell anybody not to go on vacation, not to spend a little bit of money, because I think you should enjoy life. But at the same time, the second thing that I wanted to speak on was the fact that she said the most fun she had was sitting in line and simply talking to her family. That goes back to show you what I said earlier. If you don't have the money, sometimes just getting with family, having a cookout or having something, sitting down playing the game. Our family likes to play the Wii, which is super old at this point. You can get one for like the low. But at the same time, just getting together with family, talking and spending time together like a holiday would normally be, and just making that some type of vacation-ish or a staycation, whatever you want to call that, can be very beneficial, very cost-effective. And even if you don't have that village, I think a lot of people can benefit from looking a little bit more local when it comes to their traveling needs, because you get on social media and see people going overseas, and you see these people in Belize and wherever else, Mexico, wherever they go. A lot of times we see that, we want to be there, and a lot of people will do whatever it takes to get there. And that means putting themselves behind the 8 ball because they thought they wanted to or they needed to enjoy just like everybody else. Keeping up with the Joneses have kept generations broken and broke for a very long time. And I just hate to see that. And I love to see people who can find a way to make their financial situation work, but at the same time set themselves up for the future. And that's where I myself want to be. Enjoy life the way that my finances will allow me, but at the same time set up my future to where I'm not complaining about me not having anything once I get a little bit older. And with that, let me know your strategy when it comes to travel. Let me know your thoughts and opinions about this video. Was it good? Was it bad? And if you enjoyed it, make sure that you like, comment, and also subscribe. Until next time, though.